Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and welcome you all to Photojournalism course. This course has a course code of GMC 422. This is lecture number 8 and today we are going to discuss how to critique a photograph. I'm Anwar Khan, lecturer journalism in Mass Communication Department, Cohort University of Science and Technology. So the discussion points for our today's session are, first of all, we are going to explain the very meaning of critique. The students will come to know about the very meaning of critique, and it is very necessary for them to understand the very basic definition of critique, because without having an insight into the basic definition of critique, they will not be able to understand this very topic. Then we are going to explain the importance of critique, why critique is necessary, why we carry out critique in our everyday life, right? So in the second part we are going to discuss it, and then in the third part we are going to discuss the very techniques or the tools of critiquing a photograph. So these are the 3 points that we are going to discuss in our today's session, and the students will learn it and must learn it because these are our learning objectives as well. So let's first of all have a look at the very meaning of the critique, that what does it mean. Then we will go ahead and we will look at the various techniques and the yardsticks of making a critique. So according to Cambridge English Dictionary, it defines critique as the act of giving your opinion or judgment about the good and bad qualities of something or someone. I hope that this definition is very simple, and but let me explain it again. That when critique is basically when you are making your opinion or judgment about the good and bad qualities of something or someone. For example, if you are given a responsibility to explain or define a photograph, right? So at that time, when you are giving your opinion about that very photograph, that this very photograph is the best, or this photograph is the worst, right? So actually, this your opinion is a critique, right? When you are giving or your feedback or recording your judgment, right? This is basically critique. And when you are making a critique, remember there should be some yardsticks on the basis of which you say that a picture is good and a picture is bad, a phenomenon is good, a phenomenon is harmful, right? So there would be some yardsticks with you. And remember that another thing, that your opinion might not be the opinion of another person, right? Because it differs. Your opinion may differ from another person, right? And his analysis might be different from yours. And that is the reason that we say that fact is different than the opinion. Opinion is free while fact is sacred. So look at the very second definition, Merriam-Webster dictionary. It defines critique as a careful judgment in which you give your opinion about the good and bad parts of something, such as a piece of writing or a work of art. So the second definition is like the first definition, and according to it, it is a careful judgment. It is a careful opinion making about something, about a phenomenon or a photograph or about a person. It can be about anything, right? So critique is basically, we can say that your opinion, your judgment about something or someone. So another very important point that you need to keep in mind is that critique is not negative opinion making. Well, what happens that whenever we see the word or read the word critique, the very first thing that arises in our mind is negative opinion making. We say that associate negative meanings with the word critique, and this one is absolutely wrong. Critique does not mean negative opinion making. It is something bigger than this. It is unique in its nature because it is searching for the hidden meanings in the text, right? That a photograph is given to you and you are made the judge, and you decide that that whether this very picture is good or not, right? So on the basis of using the techniques and searching for the hidden meanings in the text, right? You say that whether that very picture is good or that very picture is not good, right? So it is on the basis of that very hidden meanings, using the techniques which we are going to study in the coming slides, we decide whether that very picture is good or not. And remember that I have intentionally written down over here text, So according to some of the philosophers and scholars, they say that everything in the world is text. There is nothing outside the text. And this is according to Jacques Derrida, who has laid the foundations of the postmodernism, and this postmodernism was basically a criticism of the modernism. Well, this is a very lovely area of discussion. I hope that we will get some opportunity of discussing all these thoughts, right? So remember that this meaning making process, right, this meaning making process, it is not an abstraction. It is a practical idea, and we have it in the real world as well as in our studies. We applied this meaning making process in our study in the area of semiotics or semiology, right? That has been introduced by Ferdinand de Saussure, Ronald Barthes, and Charles Peirce, right? These are very renowned personalities of the semiotics or the semiology, right? Where we try to find the meanings of something. And similarly, again, the technique, different research techniques of the social sciences like critical discourse analysis, thematic analysis, in the social analysis. What we do in critical discourse analysis, CDA, we go deeper into the text. We try to look at the background, the history, uh, the reasons of using a particular word, right? So we try to find the reasons of all what is in behind the text, right? So this is very interesting, right? That we have this meaning making process in the in our research, right? And remember that it is not only in our research. In we have this, phenomenon of meaning making process in our everyday life. We use it. Every person use it, right? The police departments, the interrogation departments, the intelligence agencies, even we also use this meaning making process, right? So to cut it short, let me summarize it that critique is something bigger and something unique in its nature. So why critique is important in this slide, we are going to discuss it. Let's have a look at it. Critique helps make your product stronger. Well, what happens that we know that critique is basically is in the form of the feedback, and this critique is one of the forms of the communication, right? Because when you are presenting your product or item to the people, and they are viewing it, they are watching it, and then they are giving their own feedback about it, what happens that it makes your product stronger, because they are going to discuss the good qualities and the bad qualities. You will you will leave the good qualities, and you will remove the bad qualities for your photograph. So that is the reason that we say that it makes your product stronger. Then we say that it expands your thinking. Surely when you are producing something, you will be producing that very photograph according to your field of experience. So when other five people, they are witnessing it, so they would be explaining it, and they will be giving their own opinion according to their field of experience. So what will happen, their field of experience or their suggestions, opinions will mature your thinking, mature your understanding. So that is the reason that we say it expands your thinking. And then finally we say that it develops, it works for the personal growth. And no doubt it is, because critique is something that develops your personality, that works very strongly in the personal growth, right? And that is the reason that we say that many of the people, they hate the very term critique. They want that everyone should give a positive remarks about your product, right? But critique is very important in the society. So this very slide is very important, and I can say that it summarizes the whole of the presentation, because it tells you the techniques and the tools of the photo critique. It tells you that when you are given the responsibility of carrying out critique, a photo critique, so what are the techniques or the tools or the parts that you have to keep in mind while carrying out photo critique. So these are photo composition, photo technicalities, photo creativity, message in the photo, subject in the photo, and any distracting elements. So these are the six elements that when you are given the responsibility to carry out photo critique, then you have to look for these six components in the photo, and these will help you in carrying out photo critique. So let's explain each of the component separately. The very first one is photo composition. So when you are given the responsibility to carry out photo critique, you need to look at the composition, right? Photo composition. So in this lecture, right now we are not going to discuss about what is composition, what are the different types of the composition, and we are not supposed to explain the importance of the composition, because we have already explained it quite in detail. So what happened that the very first thing is that you need to look at the composition, and this composition can be in different forms, like it can be in the form of the rule of thirds, balancing element, leading lines, colors, symmetry, pattern, background, framing, frame within frame, rule of odds, cropping, etc. So when you are, all these are the composition principle or the composition rules, right? So when you are given the responsibility of critiquing a photograph, or you are given the responsibility as a judge, so you need to look at the composition first of all. Look at the examples of the composition principles. In the very first picture, we can see that this picture is following the rule of thirds composition principle. We can see the boy who is running, and he has been placed along the line, this very line, right? And we have already discussed the importance of this very line and this very line, or we have already discussed the importance of these intersecting points, which are called as the focal points. So the first very picture or the image is following the rule of thirds. The very second image is following the leading lines. These are the lines, right? And that is the reason that this image looks very beautiful, because of the leading lines. The third image, it is following the symmetry composition principle, right? And again, we have already discussed the symmetry composition principle in the previous lecture. And again, in this one, image number 4, we find the viewpoint composition principle, and these are the principles which are given to us by experts photographers, because these beautify our images. These make our images very interesting, attractive and appealing, and that is the reason that we try to pursue and follow composition principles in our photographs, right? So the very second component or tool for the photo critique is photo technicalities. When you are carrying out critique, what are the things that you need to keep in mind? So you need to have an understanding of the lens, you need to have information about the lens. Similarly, you need to look at the focus of the picture, you need to understand the exposure of the picture. Similarly, aperture and shutter speed and other technicalities which happen in the picture, right? So these are the technical aspects of the image that you need to consider while carrying out a critique about the picture. So the examples of the photo technicalities, look at the very first image, and in this image we can see that all the information, all the details in this very image is defocus. And this picture, this is one of the technique of the photo critiquing, and such images cannot be given any kind of space in the print journalism or in the print media as well as in the broadcast media. If it is a picture or if it is a video, it cannot be given space in the print media or in the broadcast media. Fine. So you need to look at the focus. When you are given the responsibility as a judge, you will look at the focus, whether the picture or the video is properly focused or not. Look at the very second image. This very part, right? This very part of the image, it has the problem of the exposure. It is an underexposed image, and what happened that after making needful, or after correcting the light in this very image, we have this very proper image. So what happens that when you are given the responsibility to critique a photograph, you will need to look at the technicalities of the photo. You will need to look at the focus, you will need to look at the exposure, you will need to look at the aperture, shutter speed and other technicalities of the photo. If the technicalities are fine, you will say that this picture has good technical aspects, and if the technicalities are poor, you are going to say that sorry, this picture has this drawback. Another component, another tool which is very important is message in the photo. You need to understand the hidden message in the photo. Being a judge, when you are given the responsibility as a judge or expert in the photo critique, you need to dig out the message, right? And that is the reason that we say very important element of the photo critique. And message, basically picture message, speaks about the happiness, it speaks about the troubles, it speaks about the good image of something. Like in this very picture, we are speaking about the good image of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Pakistan, because this is Jil Saif al-Muluk picture, and we are saying that Pakistan is full of the natural beauties, and we are telling the world that Pakistan is a peaceful world, is a peaceful country, and they should visit the natural beauties which exist in Pakistan. So this very picture basically speaks about the happiness, speaks about the natural beauty of Pakistan, but some of the images they gives and explains some terrible ideas, right, or give some terrible messages. See this picture. This picture is completely different than the first one we already discussed. In this picture, lots of happenings are taking place. The incident has taken place in 1963 in Vietnam, when a Buddhist monk has burned himself because he was protesting against the persecution of the Buddhists in Vietnam, right? So he was protesting that the persecution of the Buddhists should be stopped. So for that very reason, he burnt himself, right? And the incident has taken place in 1963. Look at this very picture. It is a very strong picture with very strong and powerful message. And believe me, it is very difficult for me to explain this very picture, because I was explaining it in the previous semester in the department. It happened with me as well, because at that time I could not explain it. The words did not support it me. And I mean, a very strong and a very strange message we have in this very image. This has taken place in Sudan in 1992, 1993, when a boy, just because of the famine in the country, we know about the Sudan, where wars is going on, where fighting is going on. So there is famine in the country, and lots of other problems in the country. So just because of the famine, this boy was believed to be a girl in the beginning. So he was trying to reach out a UN food camp which was far away from this very place. So he was tired of walking, so he laid his head on the ground, and far away a vulture was standing. And this picture was taken by Kevin Carter, and it was published in famous newspapers of the US, and it won different prizes. And because it became very much popular in the world. And this image is basically asleep on the different systems of the world. It is asleep on the rich people of the world. It is asleep on the rich countries of the world. It is asleep on the cruelties, the war, right? I mean, it is a very powerful picture with very powerful message. And around the world, I mean, everyone felt it. Everyone felt with this very image, because it is a very strong and powerful image. And will you believe that this picture was taken by Kevin Carter, and after 4 months, surely he will be passing through the trauma, and he committed suicide after 4 months. And I mean, a very strange feelings arouses when you see this image, when you see the developed countries, the advanced countries, and they stand for the humanity, they stand for the human well-beings. Then we see another picture of the poor people who do not have facilities of the food, education, health, I mean anything, the even the basic fundamental rights, they do not have it. So this picture is a very strong and powerful message in it. Another element that you have to keep in mind while critiquing a photograph is the creativity in the photograph. You need to check out whether there is the element of the creativity in the photograph or it is a normal photograph, right? So it is another very important element while critiquing a photograph. Look at this very example and you will come to know that in this picture we have mountains, we have snow, we have greenery over here, and what the photographer is doing, that he is using the element of the creativity, and the shadow of this greenery, these plants and mountain can be reflected in the water, we can see over here. So we can see that it is a very creative picture taken by the photographer. See this example again, a very lovely and attractive picture, and you can see the colors in the sky, and then these colors are produced in the water. The shadow of these colors are in the water, we can see it, and again the shadow of the trees over here, and then over here again the shadows of the trees over here. So it is a very lovely picture again, and it is just because of the element of the creativity. Yes, I would agree that there is the element of the composition. Composition rules are playing important role in this very picture as well. It does not mean that composition rules like colors, fine, they are not playing the role, or the balancing. They are playing the role, but again, it is actually the eye of the photographer. It is the element of the creativity which the photographer has introduced in this very picture. Then we have subject in the photo, that when whether the subject in the photo that you are focusing is properly focused, sharp and correctly framed or not. Look at this very picture. Here the photographer is focusing this very subject, the train, right? So we need to have an understanding and we need to be careful about the subject, whether the subject is properly focused or not. If the subject is properly focused, we will say the photograph is well defined, right? And if the subject is not well defined and we are just looking for the subject, that which one is the subject, so what happens that that very photograph will be considered as a poor photograph. Then we have, and we are to be careful about the distracting elements in the photograph. Surely there are some of the distracting elements which disturbs the attention of the viewers, so we need to look for those elements as well. If we find those elements in the picture, then we will say that those pictures are poor pictures, right? And these distracting elements can be in the background and it can be in the foreground. See these examples. In the very first photograph, what happens that a person is running in the background, so we can say that it is a poorly framed photograph because this person is distracting our attention. Similarly, in the very second image, in the background we can see the branches of the tree which is distracting our attention, and it spoils this very image. So these are distracting elements, and when you are critiquing a photograph, you ought to give attention to distracting elements. See this photograph, in this very photograph we find the distracting elements in the foreground, and it is disturbing the attention of the viewers. I mean, these branches, they are disturbing the attention of the viewers. In the previous slide, we discussed the distracting elements in the background, while this very image is the example of the distracting elements in the foreground. So this is the end of today's session. See you in the next lecture. Till that, Allah Hafiz.